Greetings, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to this broadcast. If it's the first time you are watching, my name is Paul Tavares, and I teach empowerment. I teach health and well-being. And I like to bring as much out there to people for them to understand how to lift themselves up and create the very best version of themselves. Now, I'd like to just say that I've got a special treat for you today. I have a guest who is a transformational therapist and helps a lot of people with various different things: anxiety, worry, depression, even the pain of not being able to sleep well. And I know how a lot of us have been affected by the events of the recent past: lockdowns, COVID-19, not being able to see people, not being able to connect with them. And so, though I've put out meditations and videos, there are a lot of things that other people offer that can help. And I've got my guest here, who is Anne Macdonald from Scotland, one of my favorite places, and a place that I went on my own honeymoon. It was absolutely amazing. I really enjoyed it there. So, Anne, welcome. Thank you very much for agreeing to do this.
Oh, you're welcome, Paul. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to
Thank
get
you.
out that message of how potent people really are, how powerful people really are.
Oh, that's wonderful. That is
So thank
wonderful.
you for this opportunity.
Not at all. My pleasure. And I just wanted to begin with just a simple question. What is transformational therapy? What is it?
Right. Transformational therapy is different to talking aims to shift the conditions, change the conditions. And the way it does this is basically with the power of your own mind. It turns out that now that neurology has caught up kind of with and overtaken psychology and psychiatry, we now understand the brain better through looking at the neurological aspect of things.
Mm-hmm.
And through our neurology, it turns out that for all of our lifetime, we have the ability to make new neural connections, which is called neuroplasticity. And we even have the ability to make new neurons in our brain. Now, considering
Wow.
that we have 86 billion neurons all working inside our own minds all the time, every single heartbeat of our life, for our benefit, for our advantage, and all of that together, and yet we're still capable of making more new connections.
Wow, that is amazing. I mean, I had no idea that we had so many neurons in us. I mean, I think this must be very important in research like Alzheimer's research and neurodegenerative diseases, things like that. A lot of us don't realize that we are electrically powered beings. And we think of electricity powering computers, we think of it powering mobile phones and other devices. But I remember doing an experiment with a group of scientists, actually, where we held hands. And I think one of them was touching a Van de Graaff generator, and we felt the electricity go through us. We don't realize that, but we are conductors of electricity, and the information that we receive is turned into electrical impulse and turned into the messages that we interpret with our brain and then respond. But this is even more powerful. because this research is saying that we can regenerate neurons, and that's very, very interesting to me, and restructure the pathways. I'm assuming, and do correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm assuming that someone who is anxious or someone who is stressed will perhaps use a certain portion of the brain, as opposed to someone who is more confident and more feeling more blissed out and feeling more content with life.
I don't think it's down to individual people. I think it's basically down to the commonality of our brains and how they function. As in, we are all capable of feeling all the full range of emotions in different ways at different times in responses to different situations. Mm-hmm. However, we kind of respond differently according to how our lives have developed, because our brains are kind of like sponges in the first 7 years of our lives, because our brains are not fully developed. So we've still got a mass, like billions of neurons and neural connections being made during that time in response to experiences, which of course a child has no way of processing. And some of these can be really traumatic, and therefore they form beliefs or upset and responses to certain situations, and these are then carried forward. And then of course the more that we respond with the same way, the more we reinforce that pathway, the more we reinforce that habit, the more that happens right the way through into adulthood. And one of the things with the job I do is we can use hypnotherapy to take people back to the original trauma, the original event that triggered the belief that this was the only response that was possible. I mean, the opportunity to then learn from that scene that they go back to, so that they can sort of basically say, well, that's not me, because I'm no longer that person, and I don't have to behave that way. And oh my goodness, oh wow, and you got that hurt that followed that. And I am not dissing this in any way, because it could be something that was really major and traumatic that happened. But quite often it turns out it's things like mum was too busy washing the dishes or too busy hoovering, and I got hurt, and mum didn't notice that I got hurt. So therefore, mum didn't love me because mum didn't notice that I got hurt. Mm-hmm. And therefore we form this idea that mum's not there for us when we get hurt.
Oh, wow.
For example.
Wow, that's interesting.
So it can be something that seems very simple to an adult, but to a child with their developing brain, it can be really impacting, literally impacting in the neural connections that are made. And they're made more so because of the emotional attachment to them, rather than obviously if it's something that does not have any emotional impact at all.
That's really interesting, because I know that a lot of people need to work through childhood trauma that they experienced. Perhaps, I mean, now they wouldn't consider it as trauma as such, but it's already made an impact and is set in at a deep level. But what I'm thinking, actually, Anne, is that a lot of people during COVID may have been susceptible to similar influences that they wouldn't have been normally susceptible to, because the whole situation was so different from what we would have expected. And, you know, to be locked away, to have people die around you, and to have perhaps no access to relatives and friends, loved ones. I know a lot of teenagers had no access to their friends, and of course young people have access to their partners, young adults. That was quite traumatic, and a lot of them really felt hurt. there were systems put in place to keep everyone safe, but that was also damaging the psychology. Though we were protecting people from a disease, the psychology was getting damaged. Do you get people who come in for help with depression, anxiety, worry, stress, frustration due to what happened over lockdown?
Yes, yes. It's affected all of us. And there's not any of us that has not been affected by the shutdown and COVID. And of course, it was very, very impacting because we are social creatures. We are creatures that are supposed to be with each other. We came originally from clans in Scotland, of course.
Oh,
You take
yes.
it further, it becomes tribes, whatever word you want to put on it. We survived because we gathered together and we cooperated with each other, and we negotiated with each other, and we made sure that we looked after each other so that we survived. And one of the worst things that can ever happen to any one of us, and remember this is within the brain, is for us to feel rejected, is for us to feel as if we're completely cut off from the tribe.
That must have been even worse in Scotland, Anne, because I know in Edinburgh, when I went out, even for a bit, I would have chats with people near the bus stop, all over the place.
Exactly. We're very, very sociable. Having said that, yes, we are. However, to stick to this, I think that basically was so impacting because people do need people. We need touch, we need contact, we need communication. It's more than being online. Yes, people went online and they had conversations with their grannies and their grandchildren and such like, but there's nothing to be a cuddle, that heart to heart, where it's you feel that energy from that person. That's something that you just don't get from the other end of the internet or from videoing or anything like this. It just doesn't happen. We do need that communication, that contact. And I think being cut off like that, if you think about it, when we were in our rooms to be on our own, so it was a definite punishment to be on your own. Yeah. And of course, what it did was it caused people to think and think and think way beyond what they would normally do. And then they tried to block out the thinking, the drinking. Every shop, funnily enough, they might not have had bread, they might not have had toilet roll, but guess what? So I'm not sure whether you're still with me or not.
I am. It's the connection is a little bit unstable, but we'll work with it. It's fine. Thanks, Anne, for sticking with me here. But viewers, I hope that you understand.
That's okay.
It's a very.
I think it's deeply impacted everybody, and I think there are not the resources out there to deal with people. I also think that our traditional system of dealing with anxiety, depression, etc., is making people worse. So, for example, talk therapy brings everything to the surface, but they never actually sort it out. They never put it to rest. And this is the difference between transformational therapy and traditional therapy, because we say, let's deal with this, let's process it, let's sort it out, and help the brain to put that to rest, get rid of it once and for all. But once you get rid of something, then let's fill up with what you want for you to fill up that gap, to change the setting. So if, for example, fear was your main issue before, then when you get rid of the fear, then you fill up with what you do want. So what do you want instead of fear? Right, you want calmness, you want peace, you want confidence, you want to feel strong, you want to feel self-assured, you want to feel amazing, feel awesome, feel fine. Feel self-contained, feeling in control of yourself, all of these things. So basically, I put that all in and reprogram with that, so that then becomes the new setting in the brain of all these things, and you've got rid of the bit you don't want. Now, to continue, Paul, what I do is I do that in 3 levels, okay?
Mm-hmm.
First is using coaching, because I've done master coaching, etc. So that's phenomenal skills have come from that. So communication with the conscious mind is number 1, because you have to get the conscious mind on board to then get the unconscious mind on board.
That makes sense.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. So for example, that's how the placebo works, is getting the conscious mind on board of this can do you good. Yeah. So the brain accepts it can do you good, and therefore it responds accordingly and does you good. So you can actually get the same results even when you take the pill out. You don't need the pill, because the brain can actually do this itself.
Wow. Wow. That is very interesting, because I mean, I worked in pharma and we would talk about the placebo effect all the time. So, you know, if you can create that at another level and get the conscious mind 100% on board, which is not the case when you're doing a trial, because sometimes someone will come in and they'll think, okay, it's just the placebo. It still works. But if you take that belief to the highest level, then perhaps we're talking about something more miraculous happening.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the results are incredible. They are amazing.
Wow.
The
Wow.
people I've worked with, the results they've had with them are astonishing.
Wow.
Now, for those who are older, it seems to be easier, for example, to have like a bit of a separation. And so stage 1 is conscious communication. Stage 2 is unconscious communication. Conscious communication with the unconscious mind. So you're perfectly aware of that communication, but you're still having the communication with the unconscious mind through putting the person into theta brainwave state, which is the state for hypnosis, and is also the state that you go into naturally as you fall asleep at night and as you wake up in the morning.
All right.
So for people who think they can't be hypnotized, sorry, it's not true. Because the bottom line is that you're in this state naturally at least twice a day. But that allows that open communication between the 2 parts, the 5% here and the 95% that is doing all the work. And then, of course, is the third part, which is the action. Act on it. Yeah?
This is really interesting, Anne, because I think what you're doing is, I mean, the way I look at the world is that we're all under the influence of a light state of hypnosis. If we see something, we like it, we buy it. That's powerful. But when someone is under, and viewers, please understand that no one can make you do something you don't want to do. What Anne is describing is a health hypnosis. What you see on telly is stage hypnosis, and people who run around and do things that look strange and odd are carefully selected, because they're the sort of people who would do that. So what we're doing here, what is Anne is doing here, is a very powerful, healthy technique that takes you to a state of feeling so sure, so that you can make a powerful change. And that is what you want. You want to uproot what is not working, as Anne said, and replace it with something that is working. I hope I've summarized that well.
You summarized it beautifully. And if I can tell you where this comes from, yeah, because I know the origin. I've worked it out, right? I've worked it out. And I've worked out how, of course, you can put yourself back in control as well.
Wow.
Because my grandson, right? Children, right? Young children under the age of 3-year-old fall, hurt themselves, get back up, get on with it. They just naturally bounce and they get on with it. Next. Yeah. And they just naturally heal themselves. They don't expect to be hurt. But then one day, mummy says, with the best of intention, mummy will kiss it better.
Ah.
And from that moment, the brain gets the message, I don't need to do this anymore. Mummy will kiss it better.
Wow.
And mum will heal it. And the magic still works. And it works every time. And then one day, mummy says, oh, wait a minute, I think I need to take you to the doctor. I think we need to get the doctor to look at this. So they go to the doctor, and the doctor's, and then when the child goes like this, the doctor then has all the power. And what's more is the child has lost the belief in mum's power to do it. So we've got a double whammy there. And then when the doctor says, I'm going to give you medicine, I'm going to give you stuff that's going to make you feel all better, who has the power from then on?
Someone else completely.
What I have done again and again with people, not just once or twice, I've done this lots and lots and lots of time, is put people back in control. Now, the younger somebody is, the easier it is to do, because they want to be in control of themselves and their psyche wants to be completely in charge. So, for example, there's a 15-year-old girl. I mean, my grandson does it all the time. He's been doing it for 2 years and he's only 4 years old, right? But
wow.
There's also one of my clients, 15 years old, and she goes around basically going, bing, and it's gone.
Wow.
Bing, and it's gone. Bing, and it's gone.
I love that. That's amazing.
This girl had fibromyalgia, right? She was used to being in continuous pain. She couldn't sleep. She couldn't have a life, right? Wow. And when I left her, obviously, because that's what I do. I come in, I do it, and I'll move on, yeah? And when I left her, she'd just been on holiday where she was running about on a beach, climbing rocks, doing all the different activities that everybody else was. And at the end of the day, still able to walk up a steep hill without getting out of breath, sleeping soundly at night, and feeling fabulous, feeling fine. And that's the results I want every time. I want people to feel good, feel fine, and their brains want this for them too. That's the highest intention.
That is amazing. I mean, yeah, I think that we shouldn't eliminate this aspect of healing. I think so modern medicine is great, but what they've done is they've cut out the bits that were a bit woo-woo in the past and a bit odd and a bit strange. But actually, what is right and what is wrong, what is real, what is acceptable, not acceptable. I think now that we are at a stage where bacteria are becoming antibiotic resistant, people are starting to explore all sorts of other avenues of health and wellness. And I think that what you're doing is amazing. Clinical hypnosis, clinical neurolinguistic programming, all these things that you have fused together in transformational therapy sounds brilliant. And it's almost like creating a vision board and creating your ideal self, your best self, by visualizing it. I'm sure that what you're doing can also impact someone's confidence and self-esteem and make them feel good if they're socially shy. I mean, is there anything, let's give the viewers something perhaps that they can, just a very small, easy to do process for anyone who is, everyone's busy, but too busy to do some self-work. Is there a quick process that someone can just do to just feel a little bit better after all that's happened during lockdown and COVID-19?
Breathe as deeply as you can. That's the bottom line, right? Machine within about 3 minutes. Everything closes up so that we don't breathe right. And breathing is our number one absolute best friend. Now, you were saying about the woo-woo stuff. Now, it's not just anxiety that hypnotherapy and transformational hypnotherapy works for. It is literally for real pain, because all pain comes from the brain. So therefore, the brain can heal any pain that is within the body. It creates it to get attention, and you give it the attention, and it is completely scientific. Now, from the same perspective, the same with breathing. It's 100%. It's not woo-woo. It's not yoga. It's not from India, whether it's Indian or Chinese or Japanese or whatever else. Every single one of us has the capacity to breathe. And as we breathe in fresh oxygen. We breathe in we hope we breathe in clean air with the balance that our body requires to feed it. Yeah. And as we feed our body oxygen, and our lungs fill up with this oxygen, so it then goes to our brain, it affects our heart, it affects our whole nervous system, it affects our whole parasympathetic nervous system. And the more you can just take in big, nice, deep, controlled breaths, preferably not to here, but right the way down into your belly, right the way down as far as you can, even using your mind. Now, this is I have to put this in with transformational therapy. One of the best gifts we've got is our imagination. Why do we have an imagination? Why is it so prevalent? Is it really to protect us from enemies? No, it is really to look after us. It's really to be aware of who we are, what's going on with us, and to adjust accordingly. So we already have all this within us. All we have to do is just use it. Tune into yourself, understand yourself, direct yourself, give yourself the instructions, and it'll do what you want it to do on every level, because that's what your brain is made to do.
You know, this is amazing. And you're saying it, all the greatest masters from the past, Jesus Christ himself said, the kingdom of God is within you. Buddha was saying to look inside. Yogis, martial artists talk about the hara and the dantian, and looking inside for all the answers. I think if you can enhance yourself in any way, then, go ahead. If it's something at the emotional level, I would personally not want to take any medical routes. I would love to do my Tai Chi, my Qigong, or take some transformational therapy and just enhance myself in any way, shape, or form. I think that these things have immense value, very, very powerful. And I mean, I just wanted to end with a question. How can anyone who wants to get in touch with you, perhaps for something online or in person, get in touch with you? Can I ask if you have a way to contact you?
Right. The easiest way to contact me at the moment is through Facebook. Okay. And just look up my name, Anne Macdonald, on Facebook. I am operating under what's Treat to Transform. And this is because I want to attract local people as well. I'm trying to, it's not many, there are very, very few hypnotherapists in Scotland. Right. So I'm happy to work with local people, but I'm also very happy to work with anyone, because I've been an international hypnotherapist now for 4 years. So, and I've studied, by the way, Qigong is one of my best tools. I love Qigong, and I've studied it and I've used it for years and years. And it was one of the tools that helped me to heal. And my own healing journey has been from 25 years of being completely riddled with ill health and being in a wheelchair and such like, to being healthy and fit on almost all levels. And it turns out this was because of a condition called functional neurological disorder. And it's basically the way the brain processes things or does not process things. So it's 100% real. It's 100% according to your neurology. And it turns out that this whole system that I use is the absolute best way of treating, the best treatment for functional neurological disorder, FND. And I seriously want to reach out to people out there that if you have lots and lots of symptoms that you don't particularly understand, please look up neurosymptoms.org, written by Professor John Stone. And if it turns out that you've got a lot of these symptoms, please reach out to me on Facebook. Find me. My name's Anne Macdonald. And I'll do what I can, because I am an expert on this subject. And I know exactly how to shift the symptoms. And I know exactly how to look for what the original problem was, solve it, and turn it around about so that you get new settings, new programming, and you're ready for the future to live an exciting, enthusiastic, energetic life full of vitality and good health. And that's what we want at the end of the day.
Wow, Anne, that is amazing. I mean, to end on that note, please do contact Anne if you have any of the symptoms, because that was one of the reasons that I felt we need to get this video out there, because I mean, to go from what condition she was in to now, it really is a huge transformation, as the name suggests. That, you know, really is a huge transformation. Amazing. And if one person has the inner strength and power to do it, and knows how to do it, surely you should contact her and find and make sure that you get the very best out of your life, because, you know, I mean, it's worth a try, is it not? So I think so. And thanks again for agreeing to come and talk a little bit about this and tell your story. I really appreciate you sharing a personal experience like that. And I'm sure the viewers will too. You know, and thanks again. I look forward to seeing you with my family in Scotland one day. That will be great. And thanks again for coming on. And I wish you a pleasant week. And viewers, I wish you the same. Keep breathing deeply. Be strong. Bring out the very best in yourself always. Practice Qigong, practice Tai Chi, practice yoga. Do as much as you can to enhance and strengthen yourself. Try and limit visits to the doctor if you can. If you have to go, you have to go, right? But I'm just saying, if you can do the things that you need to do to enhance your physical, mental, emotional, spiritual well-being, do it. Why not? I mean, that should be your priority. And thanks again, Anne. I will see you all in the future. Take care and God bless you all.